In our journey exploring haunted locations, we've passed through many mansions steeped in family tragedy. But today we step into a place that I'm sure would give anyone chills, whether it's haunted or not. The Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. Wait, scratch that. We're talking about Waverly Hills Sanatorium. Waverly Hills Sanatorium is a massive boomerang-shaped structure that was once a symbol of hope in the fight against the disease of the century. However, this place quickly turned into a living hell, witnessing pain, despair, barbaric treatments, and death occurring daily for decades. In the early 20th century, the Ohio River Valley was ravaged by tuberculosis, a disease known as the White Plague or consumption. With the disease spreading rapidly and no cure available, a small hospital was built on Waverly Hill to isolate and treat patients in the early stages. Over the years, when the final doors closed, it's estimated that thousands, perhaps even tens of thousands of souls were left behind. Today, Waverly Hills is considered one of the most heavily haunted locations, not just in the US, but worldwide. Today, join me as we delve deep into the abyss of pain and haunting, searching for the fragments of truth hidden within one of America's most infamous haunted destinations. Before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. This helps YouTube recommend more fascinating haunted stories to you and motivates us to continue exploring these chilling mysteries. Now take a deep breath and prepare yourself. We are about to step through the gates of Waverly Hills. The story of Waverly Hills begins with a piece of land owned by Major Thomas H. Hayes. He built a house and a one-room schoolhouse for his daughters here. Their teacher, Lizzie Lee Harris, was an avid fan of Sir Walter Scott's Waverly novels, and thus the property became known as Waverly Hill. It's unclear why the second E was later dropped. In the early 1900s, Louisville, due to its low elevation and proximity to the Ohio River, became a hotspot for tuberculosis. In 1906, the Board of Tuberculosis Hospital was formed to combat the epidemic. They decided to build a specialized hospital for early-stage patients. Waverly Hill was chosen for its higher elevation, scenic views, and remote location, ideal for isolating a contagious disease. On July 26, 1910, Waverly Hills Hospital officially opened. Initially, it was just a modest two-story wooden building with two wings, one for men, one for women, accommodating 40 patients. The construction cost was only $25,000, but the initial hope was quickly overwhelmed by grim reality. The number of tuberculosis patients skyrocketed. In 1911, plans for the new Louisville City Hospital did not include a tuberculosis ward. In 1912, all TB patients from the old city hospital were transferred to Waverly Hills. Overcrowding became so severe that many patients had to live in tents set up outside the grounds while additions were hastily built. In 1915, a children's pavilion with 50 beds was added, housing both sick children and the children of patients undergoing treatment. Clearly, a larger, more modern facility was needed. In the 1920s, the Board of Tuberculosis Hospital granted Waverly Hills $1.1 million to construct an entirely new building. Architect D.X. Murphy designed a massive brick and concrete structure in the Tudor Gothic Revival style, shaped like a boomerang, 5 stories tall, and spanning 180,000 square feet. This new building, with a capacity for over 400 patients, was considered one of the most advanced tuberculosis hospitals of its time. Each patient had a private room, telephone, radio, and a solarium porch. Construction began in May 1924, and it opened to patients on October 17, 1926. However, there's a dark stain on this period's history. Waverly Hills was a segregated facility. The new modern building was only for white patients. Black patients and other people of color had to endure poorer conditions in the old wooden structures. This injustice, this discrimination, even in the face of deadly illness, surely sowed additional seeds of bitterness and resentment into this land. When the new building became operational, Waverly Hills became an almost self-contained, self-sufficient community. It had its own zip code, post office, laundry, butcher shop, water treatment facility, and vast farmlands. This isolation was necessary to prevent the spread of tuberculosis to the outside world. However, it also created an incredibly isolated living environment, especially for the medical staff. Doctors and nurses were not allowed to leave the grounds and had to live there full-time. They also faced the risk of infection and severe psychological stress from daily witnessing pain and death. For patients, life at Waverly Hills was a fragile balance between hope and despair. The main treatments included rest, a healthy diet, and most importantly, fresh air. It was believed that the clean air on the high hill could help heal the lungs. Patients were encouraged to spend as much time as possible outdoors, on the wide porches, or even having their beds pushed outside. Old photographs show patients sitting in lounge chairs covered in snow during winter, trying to breathe the cold air. Sunlight, heliotherapy, was also considered an important therapy, with patients regularly taken to the rooftop for sun exposure. However, alongside these seemingly gentle therapies, the doctors at Waverly Hills, in a desperate search for a cure, did not hesitate to experiment with extremely painful and dangerous surgical procedures. Among them were artificial pneumothorax. Doctors would collapse part or all of the infected lung, sometimes by inflating balloons in the chest cavity to compress the lung. Lobectomy or pneumonectomy, removing a lobe or the entire lung to eliminate the damage. Thoracoplasty. This was the most brutal procedure. Doctors would remove 7 to 8 ribs from the patient, hoping that the collapsed chest wall would allow the remaining lung space to rest and heal itself. This was considered a last resort, and the survival rate was extremely low. Electroshock therapy, ECT. For patients whose tuberculosis had spread to the brain, causing psychiatric issues, ECT was applied but with little to no effect. Imagine the horror of patients facing these choices. Death was a constant presence at Waverly Hills. The morale of patients and staff often plummeted. The number of deaths at Waverly Hills was so high that the hospital administration faced a grim problem: how to remove the bodies without terrifying the living patients and crushing their morale. Their solution was both practical and chilling: build a secret tunnel. This tunnel, known today as the body chute or death tunnel, is about 500 feet long, sloping down from the first floor of the main building, through the hill, to the railroad tracks at the bottom. Initially built to transport construction materials, it was later repurposed for a grimmer function. The bodies of deceased patients were placed on a motorized rail car system and quietly lowered down the tunnel in darkness, taken to waiting trains for burial or cremation. It was all done discreetly so the living wouldn't know how many were not making it out alive. The body chute is more than just a peculiar architectural feature. It symbolizes the overwhelming presence of death at Waverly Hills and the desperate attempt to conceal it. Today, this dark, damp tunnel covered in graffiti is considered one of the most heavily haunted areas of the hospital. In 1943, a major breakthrough occurred. The antibiotic streptomycin was discovered and proven effective against tuberculosis. When the drug became widely available and was used at Waverly Hills in 1949, the patient population began to decline steadily. TB was no longer a death sentence. By 1961, Waverly Hills Sanatorium officially closed as a tuberculosis hospital. During its 51 years as a TB hospital, an estimated 50,000 patients were treated there, but the story of this building was not over. Just a year later, in 1962, it reopened under a new name and purpose: Woodhaven Geriatric Center, a nursing home for the elderly with dementia, mental illness, and physical disabilities. However, instead of becoming a place of peaceful care, Woodhaven quickly became embroiled in scandals involving patient neglect and abuse. The facility was run down, severely understaffed, and outdated treatments like electroshock therapy continued to be used. Rumors of inhumane living conditions, including cockroach infestations, led to state investigations. In 1982, Woodhaven was forced to close permanently. After its second closure, Waverly Hills fell into complete abandonment for nearly 20 years. The massive building rapidly deteriorated due to weather and human vandalism. It became a favorite spot for vandals, homeless people seeking shelter, and especially curious teenagers exploring the local haunted house. During this time, several redevelopment plans were proposed, but all failed. Converting it into a minimum security prison, protested by locals, turning it into apartments, lack of funding, building the world's largest statue of Jesus on the roof, along with a chapel and gift shop. Fundraising failed. Each failure seemed to prolong the building's neglect and decay while strengthening its haunted reputation. Stories of supernatural phenomena spread further within the community. Finally, in 2001, Waverly Hills found truly dedicated new owners, Charlie and Tina Mattingly. They founded the Waverly Hills Historical Society in 2003 with the goal of preserving and restoring the historic building. The restoration work has been incredibly difficult and costly, but they have persevered, largely funded by historical tours and ghost tours, a way for Waverly Hills' haunted past to pay for its own preservation. Today, Waverly Hills Sanatorium is a must-visit destination for history buffs and those passionate about exploring the supernatural world. Tours are offered year-round, ranging from daytime historical tours to challenging overnight ghost hunts. And it seems the former residents of Waverly Hills are not shy about welcoming guests. Supernatural activity here is incredibly diverse and reported by thousands, from the biggest skeptics to seasoned paranormal investigators. Famous spirits encountered here often include the ghost of Timmy O'Shea, said to have lived in the children's pavilion while his parents were treated for TB. He often played ball on the roof and reportedly died after falling or being pushed off. Today, visitors often bring balls, and many have witnessed them rolling on their own or rolling back when thrown as if Timmy is still playing. Mary Hillenberg and the Unnamed Nurse, Room 502. As mentioned, Room 502 on the 5th floor was the site of two tragic deaths of nurses. One hanged herself in 1928, believed to be Mary Hillenberg, possibly due to an unwanted pregnancy or botched procedure. And another fell from the window to her death in 1932, possibly suicide or pushed. This room radiates intense negative energy. Visitors often feel fear, nausea, or hear a voice shouting, "Get out!" upon entering, though the exact identities and details are debated due to lack of records. Room 502 is undeniably one of the most terrifying hotspots. The ghost of a doctor in a white lab coat is often seen entering the old operating room on the 4th floor. A ghost chef is seen in the abandoned kitchen, and the smell of fresh bread often wafts through the air, even though the kitchen hasn't been used in decades. The spirits of a man and his dog, believed to have died after falling down an elevator shaft during the building's abandonment, also appear occasionally. Owner Tina Mattingly herself saw them while locking up after a tour. Besides ghosts, many visitors here have common experiences. Shadow figures and the creeper. Like at Eastern State, shadow figures are extremely common at Waverly Hills. But most terrifying is an entity known as the creeper. It doesn't appear human, but is a large, distorted shadow, often seen crawling on the walls and ceiling of the 4th floor. Its non-human nature and bizarre behavior chill many to the bone. A rare but extremely frightening phenomenon reported here is seeing an exact doppelganger of oneself or a companion. According to old superstitions, seeing one's doppelganger is an omen of impending death. Screams, moans, incessant coughing, a characteristic sound of TB, and children's laughter echo through the hallways. Doors slamming, footsteps, and even the sounds of doctors performing surgery are also heard. Besides being touched, pushed, or scratched, many people feel sudden pains in their bodies, as if experiencing the symptoms of TB or the painful surgeries of the past. Some feel unseen hands holding theirs while walking down hallways. The death tunnel is another hotspot with slamming doors, knocks, moans, and strange lights appearing in the darkness. The feeling of being watched is intense here. Investigators being locked inside this tunnel has also happened multiple times. Waverly Hills' haunted reputation has attracted almost every major paranormal investigation show. Ghost Adventures, 2010. Zach Bagan's team captured several EVPs, including a distinct voice asking, "Remember me?" Zach also experienced sudden lethargy and energy drain while lying in an old morgue drawer. Ghost Hunters, 2007 and 2021. The TAPS team returned to Waverly Hills multiple times. They recorded shadow figures, doors slamming in the body chute, and also experienced being locked in the tunnel. Grant Wilson likened Waverly Hills to a paranormal department store, with different activity on each floor. Kindred spirits. Amy Bruni and Adam Barry had powerful experiences here. The first time, they believed they connected with the spirits of former nurses. On a return visit, they investigated a seemingly aggressive entity on the 4th floor and identified it possibly as the spirit of John Mitchell, a former patient with a tragic backstory. Wife murdered by her lover, children taken by the state. They captured his shape on an SLS camera and attempted communication to help his spirit find peace. Author Troy Taylor, a supernatural writer initially skeptical, had a direct ghost sighting at Waverly Hills in 2002. He clearly saw the silhouette of a man in a white coat walk across a lit doorway on the 4th floor and disappear into a room with no other exit. This experience convinced him completely that Waverly Hills is genuinely haunted. Waverly Hills Sanatorium is a place where the lines between life and death, hope and despair, science and brutality were blurred. It is a significant historical landmark, but also a prison holding thousands of souls in unending suffering. The negative energy accumulated from over a century of illness, torture, violence, and death has made this one of the truly most terrifying places on Earth. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, the powerful haunting presence emanating from these decaying walls is undeniable. It serves as a reminder of the dark chapters in medical history, the fragility of life, and the potential for suffering to linger long after death. Thank you for exploring the haunting story of Waverly Hills Hospital with me. How do you feel about this place? Would you dare to join an overnight ghost hunt here? Share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to continue joining us on the path to uncovering the world's most terrifying mysteries. Goodbye and see you next time.